Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the NGMI podcast, a show where I discuss crypto with people who know a lot more about it than myself, so I can hopefully pass on some practical information to you guys. Today, I'm speaking with Craig Jackson. He's the co-host of Australia's largest crypto podcast, Crypto Curious. He's a long-term crypto investor and previously the head of growth at the Australian crypto investing platform Bamboo. In this episode, you'll hear all about Craig's hard-fought lessons in the crypto space, why Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Coinbase are the holy trinity of crypto investment, why having a sell strategy in place ahead of time is crucial to not losing all of your money, and much more. Without further ado, today's guest, Craig Jackson. Craig Jackson, mate, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate having you on.
Mate, thanks for having me. This is our third go at the intro, so let's see how we go this time. But episode 5, I'm grateful to be in your first few, so thank you.
Appreciate it. I always kind of like to ask how people got into crypto. Just so love a bit of background on how you got in, why you're still here as well is another big one. So run us through.
Yeah, my story is not indifferent to anyone else, but I got started early 2017. I was at soccer training. My mate said, "Have you heard about this Bitcoin thing?" And I was like, no, I haven't. So I got home. I was only 21, so I didn't have much money. Bought Bitcoin, I think. Oh, I actually checked the other day. I think it was like $1,500 was the first Bitcoin that I bought.
Oh,
So early,
nice.
early days. And yeah, pretty much went all in. My whole savings account. And I don't know if you were around in 2017, but it was a legit. You went around?
No, not yet.
It was a legit casino. It was like CoinJar, which is still around, but virtually every other exchange that you used back in the day is now no longer with us. Bittrex, Cryptopia.
Oh, yeah.
There was one called Coin Exchange, and it was just like I wasn't even doing any work. I had my first corporate job, and I was in these exchange chat rooms. What they used to do with these exchanges, used to have like a little chat bot, like a little chat room, and you'd be in there, like everyone's anonymous, and you would just be pumping these coins with these randoms, and it was just insane. And then this was 2017, so my commute to my office, because I, just had a union, didn't really have a choice, a lot of choices to get a job. I had one choice in St Leonard's. I'm in Campbelltown. If you know about Sydney, that is literally opposite ends of Sydney, hour and a half each way.
How long is that? Oh,
yeah, 3 hours a
yuck.
day. So I'm on my laptop just punting these shit coins every single day. Yeah, it was like crack. It was bad. And then obviously the top happens in 2017. I did manage to get out some of my portfolio back then. Bought a car, bought an investment property, so did some responsible things with that. And then we thought it was dead. I thought it was over. Everyone thought it was over. And then
it's a pretty reasonable assumption at that point in time as well. Like looking at the chart, you'd be like, all right, pack it up.
Yeah, the chart was horrendous. Like it wasn't many people. Like it did hit the mainstream, but like we all thought it was over. And then middle of 2019, you still heard rumblings about it in my sort of group chats and everything, like group chats, but you're in your own echo chamber. And then 2019, I remember it did have a little run. It was like July 2019 off the bottom, which in hindsight was probably the start of the next bull. And I remember I was in Europe and it popped again. And I thought, if this is not dead, it's kind of inevitable that it has to run again. Like just my own sort of bullish mindset. And then, so 2019 has a little pop, and then obviously COVID kicks off, and then that's when things get really crazy in that 2020 run. DeFi summer, I got rugged a lot of money trying new protocols. And then I was so I'm giving you a history lesson right now, but
no, that's good. I'm here for it.
I was working in corporate, working at Telstra, and I was like, I've got to get involved in the space. So late 2020, I actually was part of the seed round for Bamboo, which is a crypto like micro investing app.
Mm-hmm.
So joined them, invested in them, was pretty much their first or second full-time employee. So me and the CEO. Left corporate, took a massive pay cut, went into the startup world as a growth guy. And 2021 happens, and it was just like all the stars aligned. Bitcoin, Ethereum pretty much ran the whole year. And then, yeah, the rest is history, which I'm sure you've probably got into that year as well. So it's been a crazy, crazy few years.
Mine was, I showed up. I didn't actually start actively investing until quite recently. I bought, I kind of bought Bitcoin, Ethereum in 2020 because I had mates that were just like obsessed with the blockchains. Like they were going to like these little, very small at the time, like blockchain meetup things at like UIW, constantly trying to drag me along. I was like more into just stocks. Like I was kind of circling like growth stocks pre-COVID and was like, yeah, just 0% interest rate things. And we're like, oh, everything goes up. I'm a brilliant investor. Look at me go. This is easy. But then I honestly didn't start actively investing until 2022, really, because I was kind of like, I'd been sitting on the sidelines watching. I bought Bitcoin and Ethereum, little bits, watched it run up in 2021 during COVID and was like, okay, that might be something. And then when it all kind of blew off, that's when I was like, I might start dedicating more of my time to this for when it comes back.
Yeah.
So, and here we are.
That's my favorite.
It seems to be coming back.
Yeah, that's my favorite sort of local top signal is meetups. Like, if one of my mates are going to a meetup, I'm like, we're getting frothy. Because I remember back in 2017 days, the meetups were like 20 people. And then I was in there for, 2021 meetups. Like FTX had a Sydney meetup and it was like people lining up. Like, so I'm ready. I think it's, when you've been through a few, you start to learn the bear signals, the top signals, the bottom signals, and like hopefully this time hopefully this time I've positioned myself accordingly so I don't make the same mistakes I've made before. Yeah.
Dude, like that is interesting. I hadn't heard that signal before of like when your kind of like retail meetups get huge. Because everyone always throws around like the top when Coinbase is number one and all that kind of stuff. Outside of the kind of regular top signal stuff, do you have any others that you keep your eye on and think like, uh-oh, this is bad?
Yeah, there's a few just in my life. Like my mum messaging me about crypto pretty much has 100% success rate in selling off the next day. I've got just people in my life that, if they start buying, I know it's like my cousin's a teacher. Like if it hits his staff room and he's getting involved, I'm like, okay, it's getting frothy. My uncle, like he's never been in crypto. He bought Axie like at the top. Like I'm just like, this is insane. Like he didn't even buy Bitcoin ETH. He just bought some Axie Infinity. So like there's just people in my life, but I talk about this a lot on Twitter and I actually have a notion and write notes to myself about top signals when they come up, and they are different every year. So I think 2017 was the celebrity stuff. The last cycle was the NFT stuff, and maybe the meetups that we just spoke about. I think this new one will have complete new ones that we haven't saw coming. And another common one that I'm seeing is like a coin booking out the Las Vegas sphere. Like that would be,
oh yeah,
that would be a top signal. Like we had FTX getting literal stadium rights. Binance got Ronaldo. Like in hindsight, it's pretty so nuts. Obvious. In hindsight, it's so obvious that it's a top. But yeah, the Las Vegas sphere. I like that one.
That's actually really good. I see people talking about it as well. Like, man, we have to get a coin on the sphere. And so when that actually, how much do you have any idea of how much it bloody costs to get an ad on the Sphere? I remember seeing like a lot of dollars.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but Ansem, he's the new Twitter. You know who that is?
Yeah.
So he's talking about booking it for Dog with Hat, which is a meme coin on Sol. And there's key players every bull. Like last was probably Kobe and the Up Only podcast. That was a huge player. He's off the radar. So I think, Ansem on Twitter, 250,000 followers, he's going to have a big part in this bull. Like in terms of if he does something like that could be send a serious inflow of capital and a blow off top. So I think it's always worth noting who the key players are each bull.
Yeah. Ansem looks to be kind of this cycle's kind of messiah at this point. He's absolutely blown up. It was with the, Sol trade at the end of last year. He did get a good vindication to be like, told you.
Yeah. The Sol trade. Yeah. So obvious in hindsight.
I had Solana shilled to me at a dinner it was below $20 at that dinner. And a friend of mine who I do like another podcast with, the Rotato Capital pod, he was like, yeah, I just bought a shitload and it's coming soon. So do with that what you will. And I was like, don't know. FTX estate totally mid-curved it.
Yeah. But you don't there's the argument on the other side that Solana was the most bearish asset for a long time. It had no users on it. I remember talking to Solana protocols. They were going to come to ETH because no one was on Solana. Rollbit moved from Solana to ETH. FTX estate was selling. It got smashed. Like, you look at the chart, like, are you going to make a big play in that? Like, it's a big move. And, even...
Yep.
You could argue that it's outran so hard because it dumped so hard. So it's starting from a lower base than, compared to your ETH, which didn't really dump that bad compared to the others.
Yeah. It's that like repricing thesis of like, this is now more at fair value for what it should be after it got decimated last year. But yeah, no, it was that I was joking. Like it was at $16 and I was just taking the view of like, oh, I'll put stink bids on at $8. Haha. And then proceeded to watch it run to like 120 on Christmas. And I was like,
yeah.
Oh,
And how do you think I feel? I was on my podcast and I said Solana's the most obvious trade of the year, and didn't even buy any because I'm like, oh, we'll get another chance at $5. Like, just completely faded it. But
there's nothing worse than giving advice and not taking it and being like, oh, if I'd listened to myself.
Yeah. And that's like tough pill to swallow because I had Sol when it first launched. I had thousands of Solana when it first launched at like pennies on the dollar. And then I'm looking at it now and I'm like, that mindset, oh, if I held it this, I would have X amount of millions, which is such a toxic way to think about things.
Yeah. Speaking of shitty ways of thinking about things, what do you see as some of the most like, I don't know, can go either side, but like overrated or underrated approaches to crypto investing? Like maybe from your own experience, like things that you've done, things that you haven't done that you wish you did, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think the most overrated thing, especially if you're new, is overtrading or trying to outpick the market. Like sometimes the narrative that pops up, you have to buy back higher. Like you have to buy higher because you're buying into a narrative. And I think one of the things that I've learned is, when Solana popped from $8 to $40, it's still a good trade at $40. But when you're looking at it and you've just seen it's done a 5x and you're like, it's already done a 5x. Like, I don't know if I should buy it. Like, I think you need to left curve some of that stuff. And you're not early, but you're still in the trade. And like, we've seen this play out multiple times where like I've looked at an asset, it's done a 10x from the bottom, and you think to yourself, nah, I don't want it. It's gone up too high. But like, if you zoom out in retrospective, it's, so I'll give you an example right now. There's a coin called Sovereign, which is a Bitcoin DeFi coin. I was looking at it. It was like 20 million market cap. It's had a huge run. Now it's at 80 million market cap. Like, you're buying into a 4x rally, but like, if your target is way higher, like, does it really matter? Like, if you're positioning yourself for Q4, you have to buy back higher. So I think that's probably an underrated piece of advice. And I think, this is probably what everyone says, but like, if you don't have a stable set like allocation to Bitcoin, ETH, or even Coinbase, they're probably the three that I would say is like the Trinity of crypto for this next bull. I mean, you got to have 60-70% of that comfy, and then you can sort of work to find narratives and try to out trade the market. But, if you're all in on complete garbage, you have to be A, willing to hold it till Q4 for the blow off top, or B, you have to have that much conviction that you can swallow a 90% drawdown and still hold, because that's like, if you went in at Solana, like at $50, you had to swallow the next bear back down to $8, and now you'd be up again. So it's like, wouldn't even do that, to be honest. I'd just keep a solid foundation of one of the three, and then go from there.
So your thoughts are kind of for this year anyway, like blow off top around Q4?
Yeah, so this is the rumblings of, I'm in the camp of it's called the left translated cycle. I don't know if you've heard about this, or the left. Yeah.
I'm somewhat familiar, but I'd love for you to explain.
Yeah, so it's pretty much the notion and the view that the real top of the last cycle was in May, and the 4-year cycle so on point, and it happens every time. So if you think it's in May, then we're of the belief that it started early this time because of potentially the ETF catalysts, probably the quicker bear because of FTX, and that sell-off, like proper peak fear, happened a lot quicker than 2017. And 2017, it dragged out for a long time, whereas this, I feel like it was quite quick in retrospective, of terms of like Celsius, Luna, FTX all happened in the same 3 months, like same quarter. So I think the top will come in Q4, just because I think the last cycle probably topped earlier and this cycle started earlier. And I'm willing to be wrong. Like, I'm willing to sell too early, because I've positioned myself the last bear market of pretty much allocating at the lows. So now I'm like probably going to take profits out a lot earlier than other people might.
Okay. Damn. That's interesting. So you think halving, because there has been that kind of consensus of like, fuck, we are front running the halving pretty hard.
Yeah.
So
I think, the insto inflow for Bitcoin is insane. Bitcoin's 50K, and the Google trends and everything for Bitcoin still low. So this is the first institutionally led bull market, which, you look at ETH coming up as well. Like, that is the most, in my opinion, not financial advice, this and that, it is the most obvious trade of the year. I think Ethereum is, because I think it's catching everyone offside. It's been the lagger. It lags every bear. It lags every bull market. It always shoots up late. Polymarket, the odds platform on Polygon, has the Ethereum ETF at 40% chance of approval. It had Bitcoin at 80%. So even the speculators could be offside. Everyone's in Solana. Everyone's in Bitcoin. We could live in a world where Ethereum gets approved, and that could, and when Ethereum pumps, that could actually bring the top even more forward to Q3 potentially. I don't know. We're just all guessing at this point.
True. Especially, do you think that, like, because it's being institution led this time, like that kind of makes me think that there'd be, and again, maybe I'm left curving it, but I'm like, because you got your institution led buying and there's way less retail froth, I hope. do you think that could kind of drag out the length of the run, in the sense that it has more chance to actually build up a solid foundation of kind of core money of suits buying and being like, well, adding it to the ETF for fucking 10 years and we'll think about it later. And then retail comes in, really sends
Yeah.
it fucking stupid, and then it kind of chills out later. That's kind of like my very, very not intelligent thoughts on it.
Well, that's the thing. That could happen. We're in really uncharted waters right now with the institutional part of the cycle that we've like never experienced. Like, you're right. What if Bitcoin, Ethereum are both ETFs? They're both getting steady, ridiculous inflow every month. Like, would that just, it can't go up forever, obviously, but
Yeah.
there has to be a point where, maybe it's the initial, where it's launched, everyone's excited, everyone's allocated, and then maybe it has a little bit of a correction. But you're right. It's insane. And we were talking about this the other day in one of the group chats, that like, could you just see Bitcoin and ETH be the only two that hit all the highs because they're getting all the insto inflow? And, you might just see little pockets of retail pump dog with hat or pump DeFi. Like, so these narratives are like, they're all up in the air. But I think, a good piece of advice, like if you're just starting and you're really taking it seriously, is just taking notes, like writing yourself the case for that on a piece of paper, and then sort of revisiting it every few months or every month or whatever it is, and then sort of challenging your own thesis, because you can get caught up, especially like me and you, like you're in it every day, like you don't, like, so am I. So like you see it and you're in the weeds, you don't really understand it at a macro. So I think that's a good accountability tool that you could use for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I saw someone, and this is more like specific kind of info that I got recently from someone that I was like, that's fantastic. But it was essentially like, if you're looking at protocols, like if you're looking at newish things, newer narratives, try to not go to Twitter at all. Like, especially if you're looking at investing in it, and actually just look at its website, look at all the information you can get on it, and try and generate a number that it would be worth of your own accord. And just try and like lock yourself in a room. Don't like access anyone else's opinion. Try and come up with that number by yourself, and then see what it is actually compared to either market cap or FDV, depending on whether you think it's a meme or not. But have a look. And if there's a huge difference between your number, you're either wrong or you might be onto something. But I just thought that was a really interesting little starting point for like, because it's so easy in bull and bear to get waylaid by other people's like, it's I don't know, Bitcoin, like $1 million is FUD. You're like, maybe. Like, I'm sure Michael Saylor agrees, but like, it's so easy to come across opinions that you're just like, come on, man. And I feel like retail in like proper crazy bull market comes in and they see all this shit on Twitter of like, it's going to whatever imaginary number, and everyone's like, it's possible. So
do you think retail's using Twitter?
I think I think that there's a lot of, I saw someone refer to it as anyone on Twitter now, in crypto Twitter, is sophisticated retail, which I thought was
I would agree with that.
A funny caveat. And I was like, that's cool. I don't know. Like, I live my life and get all my info, for better or for worse, from Twitter. I don't think that retail would necessarily find Twitter straight away. I think that from what I went to Oz CryptoCon with a couple of the guys from Brotato Capital, and we were chatting with a lot of people that I was like, oh yeah, this guy on Twitter. And these were like older, like early 40s kind of people that were like running stalls for products. And they're like, Twitter? And I was like, what? How do you not
like,
know about crypto Twitter? And it was this entire thing of like, oh, YouTube and Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you think that, like, I mean, that's my humble opinion, is that retail will be YouTube, Instagram, which terrifies me. But
I think it's Twitter for, as you said, sophisticated. YouTube is huge and the garbage on YouTube is insane. But like, funny enough, they're the ones that could do really well, is the ones that BitBoy shilling like Hex or something. And then TikTok as well.
Yeah.
Like, you can't fade TikTok.
I forgot about TikTok. I
people
try and delete it from my mind because it makes me sad as kind of like a tech doomer in that regard. But
Yeah.
whoa, I forgot that's especially if Zoomers come in and they're
Well,
frustrated about not being able to buy houses.
There's like data that says like Zoomers are using TikTok as Google. They're searching, they search recipes, they search travel, they search investment. Like, they go on Twitter, they go on TikTok, sorry, and they search it. That's a legit behavior that they're doing. So there's probably like 3 stages. There's like the noobs on TikTok, the semi-noobs on YouTube, and then like the noobs that have been in there for a while on Twitter. So all 3, like, I'm trying to find a site, and let me know if you have it, that's like Google Trends but TikTok trends. Like, you can see, you can search a search term and see. Yeah, that would be cool, eh?
That is something. That would be very, very good data to have in Bull. Jesus, true. Especially if you're of the thesis that younger people are also going to come in as well. Because I know that Blockchain God 69, aka Sticks, on Twitter is huge. That's his entire, like, not his entire thesis, but it's a huge part of his idea. Is just like, he's on the younger side. So I think he's like 24, 25, but he's like, oh, there's no way that Zoomers don't come in. And
they will. 100%
like,
they will.
Once they figure out they can gamble on internet Ponzi's, it's like, shit, here we go. So,
well, what's really their path to home ownership or any sort of, what's the path? Like, you kind of have to. You need to go a little bit high risk. Like, and if you zoom out, like, the end of the day, it's the birth of an asset class. That's what this is. So this only comes around every 100 years. 100 years stocks, maybe 100 years before that, property, then maybe bonds. Now, then you had the internet.com boom, but that wasn't really an asset class, more so an industry. So this is a whole other thing. Like, so, if you're we're probably the same age. In 20 years or whatever, when we actually have money, like, we're not going to be buying gold. We're buying Bitcoin for sure. So if that's the trend, then,
yeah. No, I am of that thesis as well. Of just, I for a long time watched kind of cautiously at crypto because I was, in all honesty, I was mid curving the shit out of it.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't understand. Like, I came from a background of like reading quarterly earnings reports, and I was like, yeah, there's no revenues. I can't value this. What do I do with it? And so I kind of avoided it for a long time and didn't understand that, the dynamics of it more looking like a commodity, or the fact that it's actually just essentially it's a new paradigm. And I know that that's kind of a meme in and of itself, and I'd be happy to be some shit for some TradFi guys for that. But I do think it's a new paradigm of assets.
If you're TradFi, then are you just like the biggest bull for Coinbase?
Oh no, this is I'm reformed. I'm fully reformed. I'm now an on-chain gambler.
Because I said, like, I think in our yearly predictions on my show, Crypto Curious, I was saying, like, we could be in a world where, or we could be in a situation where Coinbase outperforms Bitcoin and ETH. And it actually has over the last 12 months or so. Like, I think it's maybe on par, or like it's around Bitcoin, but I've 3x'd it. Like, I bought it at 60, now it's like 180 or something. So nice. there could be a world where, like, the best performing crypto asset is Coinbase. Like, that
there
could
is
happen.
No second best.
Yeah.
Need Coinbase Sailor. What? I mean, and I think that there's good reason to be extremely bullish on Coin right now, because I mean, Q4 earnings came out, and it came out like a 200 mil rev over, beat EPS very well, and that was just Q4.
Yeah, it hasn't even for the ETF launch or anything.
hasn't accounted for ETF, hasn't accounted for volume from the last, 48 days, 49 days. So it's like Q1 for coin earnings is going to be insane.
Yeah.
It does look like the stock to have on.
Their fees are daylight robbery as well, and they're still capturing more market. Like someone posted the other day, I'm trying to find out what the fees were.
It was like 4% or
Yeah,
something. I think it was
4%.
Simo being like, it's 4% on Coinbase. I was like,
It's daylight robbery, man.
oh,
It's
that's
insane.
do you reckon that they have that because they're like the premium crypto brand and they're like, well, everyone else is a danger and could be scammy, but not us. We have that security, so you cop a 4% fee for buying with us.
Yeah, well, Brian Armstrong pretty much spent a year in Washington, like getting all these suits on side. He's obviously got, not him, but his two biggest competitors, Binance and FTX, are legit in the toilet in the US. So they've obviously captured all them. Their marketing is preem. Their brand is preem. So, they can get away with
Yeah.
charging 4%. It's like Apple charging twice as much as an Android phone. Like,
Yep. And look at Apple's market cap.
yeah,
So
exactly. So,
they have captured, and they didn't even have to do much in the way of like, aggro tactics. It was just let everyone else fuck up and just go down the toilet essentially. Like CZ his hearings postponed until April, but he could be looking at 18 months prison, man,
wow,
which is crazy.
crazy.
It's like that's formerly the CEO of Binance. God damn. I mean, a lot of
Yeah,
people did see it coming. So, but at the same time, it is wild that SBF jail, CZ possibly jail. Like, damn.
and that's like, it's crazy, like how the meta of the last cycle is completely going to be different because the big players are either in jail or they've taken sabbaticals. Like Three Arrows
Yeah.
gone, Luna, who's the guy that was
Shout
running
out to the
Luna?
hat.
3 Arrows,
Ooh.
yeah. Shout out to the merch. SBF
Yeah.
jail. Like these new sort of characters, they seem to be like your Larry Finks, your Kathy Woods, your on Twitter, your Ansems. So I think it's always worth noting who the next meta is for this cycle, because it's pretty much all been washed out from the last one.
And I feel like all the Ponzi-nomic models, like there'll still be new forms of Ponzi-nomics. Like I'm not sure if the ERC 404 stuff is yet or not like that. There's lots of new things that I think will be trends that will eventually come undone and people will be left going, how did we not see it? And it's like, reasonably clear. But again, that's what risk is for. You can make a bet that it's not and that it's legitimate and you can be right and be rewarded for it. But you can also be on the other side of that trade. But I do also feel as though like that institutional, all of the lending stuff from last cycle of like, we'll give you 20% yield. You just got to lend your shit is now that meta's done.
Yeah.
Like you could not be a lender in this cycle. And I think that that's, well, in that kind of sense. And I think that that's going to be very bullish for crypto in general, in the sense that there's a lot more sensible behavior. Obviously, on DeFi itself, your APYs can run up to whatever the hell they please. But from those centralized providers, not luring people in with like, this is the future of France, 30% yield on shit that you're like, what? So, no.
Like even like that flywheel Olympus of the last cycle, 3,000%. Like I had friends that used to be like big wigs at JP Morgan and TradFi, like legit buying Olympus and like not understanding that it's a complete Ponzi flywheel and that will have to, like, the music will stop. So it's like even like the sophisticateds can get caught up in this, get caught
Yeah.
up in the green.
Well, I do think that the meme of like, if you don't know where the yield's coming from, you're the
You are the
yield.
yield.
I feel
Yeah.
like that instantiated itself so well in crypto people that no one like does that shit anymore. They're just like,
Yeah, it's done. Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be stupid mania where people do just start lending their shit for whatever, but that core behavior of, I can put my Bitcoin here and get 30% APY. It's like, hopefully that's done.
Yeah. Let's hope so.
But yeah, man, what are your kind of thoughts on like we've got Bitcoin, ETH, because you were head of growth for Bamboo, so you're like, I imagine that you're partial to this idea of like DCA Bitcoin, ETH.
Yeah.
Just have some, and you mentioned the Trinity before of Bitcoin, ETH, Coinbase. Any alts that you look at this cycle and think like, fuck yeah?
Time
Time to shill your bags, man.
to chill. Yeah, like as I said, yeah. So the three that I sort of like, it's Coinbase, Bitcoin, ETH. That's what I'm comfortable buying. But obviously, the narrative of different things will pop up that I will get access to. But the narratives could be flash in the pans, like they could be actual things. And I think another thing is one of them is Bitcoin DeFi. So, you've seen so much value now in Bitcoin, literally $1 trillion. Like, how are people going to borrow against it? How are you going to trade on Bitcoin, like in the ecosystem? So obviously, like Stacks, Layer 2 Bitcoin, Sovereign, Bitcoin DeFi, you can borrow against your Bitcoin without needing to sell it, kind of like the Aave of the Bitcoin chain. Obviously, Solana and that ecosystem will have some sort of interest. And I think there's a new one now called decentralized infrastructure that Simo or Ben was talking about. This sort of coin called Honey, Hive Mapper.
The D-pin thing.
The
Yeah.
D-pin thing, which is like, you and me can put in this little device in our cars and just drive around, provide data to them. They can provide live map infrastructure. We get paid in tokens for it. Like that sort of idea. Like I really like that idea. Like you can see that getting some traction in the future. Obviously, like the layer 2 space, Arbitrum, Optimism, Base, Blast. Like I think ETH layer 2 hasn't really had its day in the sun just yet. So like, yeah, mainly, if I listen to myself back, like those infrastructure projects like that is something that I'm really involved in, but like maybe on the sexier side, like gaming. I'm like not that much of a gamer, but like I don't mind jumping on, playing some FIFA, playing some Fall Guys or whatever it is. So I think the next AAA rated game, whether it's Alluvium or whether it's Star Atlas, like the trailers look amazing, but let's see if they can execute. Like Alluvium especially, like I played that at the CryptoCon a few years ago, like their beta, and I was like, wow, like I can see this becoming a household game. And like the gaming of the Zoomers at the moment is insane. So like there's probably the sort of the main narratives that I'm looking out for this cycle.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm glad you mentioned like layer 2s on Bitcoin, because I just think that's the most obvious next step of like you have all of these suits coming in looking at BTC. Like, do we really think that they're going to stop at the like up heavy orange rock good part of the thesis? Many of them will, and just put it in the books and be like, cool, that's good. We've got the ETF, thank you. But I do think there's going to be a lot of interest for like, oh, but like, what's the utility on Bitcoin?
Yeah.
And Stacks is something that I have a couple of friends that think very, very highly of Stacks. They've got their Nakamoto upgrade coming around the halving. I'm not specific, like I don't have specific dates, but at the moment, the Stacks network. Have you used it much?
I've got the wallet and I've used it and interacted with it. Yeah.
The Stacks eco was the Alex.
Yeah,
Dex.
Alex Lab, yeah.
It took me 45 minutes to send I was buying some Stacks meme coins because that's where I'm at.
That's the meta.
That's the meta. I do think that meme coins on unknown chains, that's fun meta of like going to random ones and being like, what's the meme coin of this thing? If you think that it's going to pop again in the future, just being like, tiny bit, and just like, it's a lottery ticket, in my opinion, of just like, well, we've got that.
Well, that's the thesis to look at it. Like it is a lottery ticket. I've been burnt so many times. Like Arbitrum, I lost like remember I was like one of the first people to bridge to Arbitrum, bridge with an ETH, put 0.1 in to like 10 projects. Literally 9 of them rugged. Horrible
Well done.
conversion rate. But then I got the airdrop for doing that. So I mean, is what it is.
And that, dude, airdrop meta for this year as well is pretty. It looks pretty nice at the moment. Like just that, this kind of. I'm writing like kind of a thing on just liquid staking stuff for airdrops because there's a lot of them that have either confirmed in so many words or confirmed outright of like, if you stake with us, you'll get a token.
Yeah.
And that does seem to be
that's
like
probably like a really good piece of advice. Like if you are starting and don't have any cash or any, like, just start airdrop farming. Like learn the art of airdropping, and it's going to take time. It's going to take probably every Sunday for the next month. But like jumping in there, because I've been lucky enough to get a few airdrops like almost accidentally, like not really planning to get it, but just playing around with something. And then a year later, like you get couple of thousand tokens and you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah. Airdrops they feel imaginary until they're not.
Yeah.
Like the dimension airdrop that came from tier staking. Like a couple of friends got huge. Well, depending on, your position, but relatively significant drops.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I didn't do anything. Like, what is this? And I think that is such a funny thing with crypto where people in normie kind of circles, don't mean that degradingly, but just not in crypto. So if anything, better circles have this idea of like, oh, I do this with my credit card, I get these points, and then I, save money on these things. It's like, if you put in that same amount of effort just on one chain, you could probably like earn yourself a significant amount of capital. So yeah, airdrop farming, underrated.
Yeah. And it's just, the thing is, you've got to be locked tight though. Like you can easily get rugged. Like if you're new to the space and you're trying to get a Scroll MetaMask wallet and you're trying to stake on Scroll, like, dude, that's gnarly.
Yeah. I say that and then think about how long it took me to feel comfortable doing shit on chain, and then the amount of times that I've sent, luckily only small amounts, to things where I've gone like, why isn't that showing up? And then I've gone, oh,
yeah,
it's on the wrong chain.
The cost of being early.
Yeah, I've sent like a couple of transactions now. I've sent definitely over a few grand to things that are never coming back.
Yeah,
I'm just like, well,
bummer.
Oh well. But yeah.
Classic.
Dude, bullish or kind of like what are your thoughts on NFTs this cycle?
Pudgies. Wow. The Pudgy trade, who knew that would be the trade? I got it but flipped it for like a 4x and now it's done a 20x. So obviously these Pudgies are like, they kind of look like they're the new meta. They just flipped Bored Ape. They're 20th.
The flappening, yeah.
The flappening. Like, obviously retail's priced out, but for me, I think NFTs like, I just don't, I can't see it being another meta, another alpha that's going to happen again. Like when something ran that hard and people were paying 400 grand for a Bored Ape, like how do you possibly get more frothy than that? Like, so from my opinion, like I'm not touching it for this cycle. I actually passed on the quantum cats on Bitcoin, got a whitelist. They were sort of piss farting around, delayed the mint like 3 or 4 times. It was like 4 grand to mint one. And I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm just going to stack the 3 Bitcoin, ETH, coin, NFTs. I'm happy to miss out on the noise. But in saying that, like the gaming ones, like Illuvium with their Illuvitas or whatever they're called and their land and stuff. Yeah. Like I get that.
Illuvitars.
Illuvitars, yeah. Like I can see the sort of the use case there. So I'd be probably interested in that when that starts to develop. But the profile picture ones, I think they're more or less done. Unless you're Pudgy Penguins and you're in Walmart and you're sort of giving your users the ability to license the penguins to like make products, like that's cool. But I think 99.5% of them are just garbage.
Yep. Dude, I feel like it's easy. Yeah, I agree. Like if you have gaming kind of adjacent NFTs, things that have, and I feel like I'm mid-curving it here, but things that have a clear value thesis to everyday people of like, oh, I'd buy that picture. It's worth that much. But yeah, the PFP matter of just like, fuck it. It's this picture of a frog and it's worth $100,000. Why? No clue.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to be wrong. Maybe I wouldn't, but I do think that there'll be some speculation just because its numbers go up and you'll see like a collection. But this idea of, a Bored Ape, what, 400? What? No, it wasn't 400. It was like 150 ETH at its peak.
Yeah,
but I mean,
it was fucked
ETH
up.
was also worth like nearly 4 something K. So it's like $500,000 for that picture. I was chatting with a guy recently, Dark Forest Cap from Tangent, and he didn't mint Bored Apes because he thought they were ugly. Like he was on on the website and he's like, ugh, what is this?
But like even if you
and
did,
then proceeded to be like, oh.
Even if you did mint one, you're not holding it till you're selling it at 5 ETH. Like you're not like get that out of your head. Like if I bought it, I would have had this. Like no, you wouldn't have. You would have sold it for a 5x, and like it's a wasted thought. But in saying that, like just on Bored Apes, like these companies are doing it very well. Where like Yuga Labs, they raise the capital at the top of the bull. They're probably sitting on an absolute war chest. Like they just acquired Moonbirds.
Yeah.
Like why? They're like hiring for developers. Like they seem to be making a game. So like, I don't want to fade Yuga Labs itself. Like I think, definitely don't want to fade that. But I think, the Bored Apes being 100 ETH is just insane for it to happen again.
It doesn't feel like it's going to happen. And I
They'll
feel
they'll spin up new Ponzi's and new assets and new stuff to get money from people. They're not going to try to repump their Bored Apes. It's the rotation.
Oh, down bad. Dude, it's not good. I don't think I've heard anyone share a thesis of like, yep, Bored Apes, it's a good time. It's like, Bored Apes, like Yuga Labs Eco, maybe. Bored Ape, not good.
Yeah, not good.
Man. Yeah, no, I feel like that's the case. Gaming things make sense because they're in-game assets that you own. Everyone could be like, yeah, okay, that's reasonable. But this idea of, cartoon profile pictures, nay.
For sure.
Man, before we wrap up, I would like to ask if you had one, like I'm going to steal this blatantly from like the end of Up Only, but they had like that little section of like alpha share of like one little thing that you'd leave with people. I don't know, even to like your younger self or something cliche like that. But like, what would it be if you had one little thing that you're like, okay.
Piece of advice for my younger self or people in their first or second cycle is you need to have a sell strategy. You need to realize when enough's enough and you need to treat this for what it is. It's a highly speculative asset class where you can make outsized returns, but you can also lose everything. So, you don't have to lose everything, but like you have to cop a significant drawdown. So I think, this cycle I've really made it my priority to keep myself in check. I have an accountability partner, Elliot, where we sort of in the next Q3 and 4 we'll catch up every fortnight or every month, and we'll just check on our portfolio. Like we will tell each other everything. So I think, the first 2 cycles, I felt like I sort of was a lone soldier a little bit. So I think an accountability partner and having a sell strategy and keeping your future self accountable for when the greed is at all-time high and you're like, maybe your goal's 100,000 and you're at 70,000. You're like, oh, like I'm so close, but like they're just imaginary. Like the market's not going to go there just because that's your target. Like you need to be like sort of realistic and take things a bit earlier. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Mate, beautiful.
Very boring. But
No. extremely solid advice, especially like this kind of stage. So
Yeah.
because everyone loves to think what they'd, exactly what you said before with Bored Apes of like, if I held it to blah. And it's like, dude, just don't let that bog you down. Actually have a target where you're like, okay, and leaving life-changing money on the table is just so silly, but so easy to do in the
Yeah.
moment. So no, I think that's ideal.
Yeah.
Mate,
For sure.
thanks so much for coming on. That was bloody awesome.
Thank you, mate. Cheers. Good luck with the rest of the episodes.
Hey, cheers, man. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you've enjoyed the NGMI podcast, make sure to give this channel a like and subscribe. I'm still in the early stages of building out this YouTube channel, podcast, whole thing. So every little bit of support helps. If you're interested in hearing more about the crypto market in relatively high detail, I write a weekly newsletter called the NGMI newsletter. You just type that into Google, it should come up. And that's where I put my own thoughts and details and drag in everyone else's analysis for the week. So hopefully you find that useful if you're looking for more info. If not, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.